Hello, hello. We are letting a little bit people in at the moment. Welcome to the B Corp Journey information session. I'm your host and participant here as well, Skadi from Move to Impact. Joining me here today is Rolf from Krul, a creative agency which only has the impactful clients. And also joining me is Meg from Better Future, who they're only approaching companies from a holistic perspective on people, planet, and profit. And Move to Impact, we help companies doing their first steps on a sustainability journey. We're happy to have you all here since it's B Corp month, and we want to tell you a little bit more on how it is to become a B Corp and talk a little bit about all your questions. I'm talking a little bit when all people are coming in, and I want to ask you already, please write in the chat who you are, what kind of role you have in your company, and what you expect from this session. If you have a burning question or there's something you want to get out of the session, please write it already in the chat, and then we can dive into basically your questions already when we talk. Furthermore, for the house rules, please try to stay on mute, since we three switch a little bit between each other. It's better to understand for everyone. We will also go through all of us three, basically telling you a little bit more about B Corp, and ask your questions while we are talking in the chat directly. So we either directly answer them when we are talking, but otherwise we leave no spaces basically, or no time between what we are saying. So you can ask them all at the end. So we have like 15 to 20 minutes at the end of when we basically all three told you a little bit more about our approach and how we work with the B Corp journey. So then we answer all your burning questions, or we answered them already while we were talking. So you can see a little bit more about that. For everyone who just joined, just write in the chat who you are, what your role is from your company, and if you have any big expectations or questions for this session, so we can dive a little bit more in everything. So what you see here is, there we go, is our agenda for today. So I'm telling you a little bit more just now what is B Corp and how to become it. Rolf from Grr will tell you a little bit more on the B Corp experience as a company, since they're already at the recertification phase. Then Meg from Better Future will go a little bit more in depth on how is the B Corp journey contributing for your company to becoming a sustainable company. And I, from Move to Impact, will tell you about our 4 steps. We help companies to become a B Corp, and what kind of tools you can use also for that. So that will be, each of us will talk about like and we'll tell you a little bit more about it. Great to have you here, guys. Looking forward to talk with you further about all your questions I'm already seeing popping up in the chat. And let's dive into the B Corp part. So what is a B Corp? The B Corp is called Benefit Corporation, and it is a sustainability certification. It's assessing a company on the social and environmental impact of their company, and it's definitely a challenging process. That's why probably a lot of you are also in this chat, and that's why we're also talking about it, on how actually to approach this journey. The B Corp certification is assessed by a third party, and they are a worldwide and known global brand. It's called B Labs. That's an audit company, and they are situated in the States. And as a B Corp, you are a transparent company, and try to like show that also to everyone around you. you try to monitor your impact, or you're monitoring your impact, and you do essentially business for good. You're not only looking for your financial benefit, but you're really trying to look how you can actually show other companies and do good for other companies as well. That's why we also collaborated here together with these 3 companies, because we all share the same vision and values of really trying to contribute as much as we can to other companies, reaching the next steps towards becoming sustainable and really further the sustainable and doing good mentality within companies. This assessment is based basically on 5 aspects. It's on workers, community, environment, governance, and customers. So what you get basically when you get into the B Corporation, or when you want to become a B Corporation, you become a questionnaire with around 200 questions, and they will be based on these 5 topics. And for example, with workers, you will get a question like, how many of your employees have a fairly paid job? Are you only having your company based on interns, for example, or not? So what is the difference between that, and what kind of percentage of your employees have that? But also for the community, are you supporting minorities in your local community, or are you contributing to projects? But also on the environmental part, are you measuring scope 3? Are you measuring scope 1 and 2 of your company? How are you monitoring it? What are you doing with your waste management? Where are you bringing your technological waste to? All these kind of questions the B Corp assessment is challenging you about. So what are the basic steps from B Lab for you to become a B Corporation? It's the B Impact certification process. This is the questionnaire basically, or in that sense, it's a process. Sorry, again, the B Impact certification process is that you need to get at least 80 points from the 200 points you can reach as a company. And within that, there are like 4 steps basically. And this is the B Impact assessment, the BIA also called. It's an online questionnaire, what I just talked about this 200 questions about, and that lead basically to a formula where you can get points from. This is put together from these topics we just talked about: the workers, community, environment, governments, and customers, but also on your business strategy. For example, if you're trying to sell oil, or doing exchange in weapons or something like that, you are not going to become a B Corp. Just don't think about it. So it's definitely also a little bit in your DNA of your company, what you're doing. Then after that, there will be a validation interview. So if you click on submit, when you reach the 80 points within the BIA, within the impact assessment, and you say, okay, let's go, then there is a waiting line from 9 to 12 months. And then you will get into an validation interview. Within these 9 to 12 months, you still can adjust your score, and you can still work on becoming more sustainable as a company. In the validation interview, the B Lab will check whether you have evidence for the information you gave or not. And they will ask more questions about your company so that they don't understand things the right way, or don't interpret it the wrong way. And then you sign basically the B Corp Declaration of Interdependence, that you're really like standing for really being a company for doing good. And each 3 years you will be reviewed on these aspects, because these questions also change within a 3-year interval. So therefore, you can know that you are on the up to date basically with your company on all the important parts. But yeah, talking about recertification phase, I want to give the word to Rolf from Grill because they are just in it. They are already nearly 3 years a B Corp, and he can tell you more about their experience on the journey and how it actually takes place.
Yes, let me share my screen. You can see my screen now, right? So I'm here today with my colleague Charlotte. I'm a creative director and co-founder, and Charlotte is actually going a bit more in depth into the B Corp and the recertification phase. So she could be helpful as well because she has more in-depth knowledge than I have, and has done a wonderful job of implementing the B Corp into the whole organization. So I'm going to talk about 3 points, a bit of who we are, about our B Corp journey and what we've learned of being a B Corp. We became a B Corp actually 2 years ago. So currently we are ramping up for the recertification in 1 year and want to be sort of ahead of time. So that's why we are quite actively currently. So a bit about us. So a lot of people ask us why we are called Grr, because it's such a stupid name. So we make quite explicit that we don't want to work for the part of the economy that is only focused on making as much money as possible without taking planet and people into account. So we have a selection of clients that we call Meaningful Matters, and that really are looking for a social impact. So we call ourselves a creative digital agency for Meaningful Matters. And that means that we only work for clients that go for this social impact. So it can still be commercial companies or governmental clients. We do a lot of work in the cultural sector, and we work for a lot of NGOs. And because we wanted to make that more explicit, so not only working for these companies and finding an impact there, but also being the best version yourself. So we say, for us, this means that we have a lot of experience with the sort of the complexity that goes with these type of clients. As an example, if you are Shell or another sort of evil company, nobody expects you to do good, so you can basically say whatever. But we noticed that purpose-driven companies are held to a higher bar when it comes to communication. So you have to prove everything, and you immediately get attacked on every statement that you make. So it's just a little bit more complex and a little bit more layered than more commercial clients. So what we do is we do visual identity and branding projects, digital solutions, which is sort of a complex way of saying we build websites and apps, and we also do innovation trajectories, mainly for our governmental clients, sort of trying to figure out what to build. And work that you might know is stuff we do for ocean cleanup. We've been working with them in their scale-up phase since 2016. We work for Stedelijk Museum for a long time already. And we are a long-term partner of Fastnet, the charging network for electric vehicles. This is our office in Amsterdam. About our journey. So we are founded in 2003, and we always had this very implicit story that we wanted to create this social impact, that we wanted to do something good for society. And at some point, we thought it was very, very annoying that people kept saying, so is this a coincidence that you work for these kind of companies? So in 2017, we got introduced to B Corp because of our client. We worked for Yoni for a long time. They have been one of the first B Corps, I think, in Holland. great company, great people. And they introduced us to the B Corp. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and you see it everywhere. So I was visiting visiting San Francisco in 2018, and then I saw how big it was over there. And America being a sort of always a bit ahead of us, I expected now this will become quite big, quite fast in Holland, which hasn't happened on that scale that I have seen there actually. But more on that later. So in 2018, we started the process of becoming a B Corp, going into the BIA process. And then you meet a B Lab and they're sort of, well, not so agile way of working. So basically, we've been waiting for almost a year to get a clear idea of when can we be certified. There weren't that many or that long of a waiting list back then, not as long as it is currently. We have a love and hate relationship with B Lab. They do great work, but they're not the most organized. So it was kind of unclear what was the status, but at some point we got a time slot for a certification for the audit, and then we were moving ahead and had the official certification, I think at the beginning of March. Sorry, it says 20, no, it's 20, 2020. Sorry. So we got the official certification, and now we are ramping up to the recertification in 2023. So what have we learned in this period? You know, starting from 2018. I think most importantly is that nobody knows what a B Corp is yet. It is definitely becoming better. It's becoming better, I think, every month. I think a good example is a pitch we had at GroenLinks for people that are not Dutch native. I would say they're the leading political party for sustainability and these kind of topics. Presenting to them, presenting the B Corp as a sort of given, like we are a B Corp, like trying to move on. And then the room, I think there were 15 people there. Nobody of the 15 people knew what a B Corp was. So I think so. That is kind of the status we are at this moment. It is very niche. The people in the community are very committed. The people in the community really know how much work it is and what kind of commitment you need. But outside the community, nobody has heard of it. But it is growing, and the B Corp definitely has a posse, and the posse is growing, and it's quite international. So we have seen a lot of new clients moving in, looking explicitly for, we want a creative agency that has a B Corp certificate. So it really has become a sort of selection criteria for some clients to move ahead with the design agency. So we definitely pulled in some international clients that we wouldn't have otherwise, and we have gotten clients that that are kind of sexy, could have worked with anybody, but were really explicit about wanting to work with B Corps because they were looking for the same, an alignment with their values. So we've done quite well in that. I think the biggest thing for us was really finding the pace in how much do you want to improve. So the initial certification phase, we did it with quite a small team. I think 3 people internally, moving quite fast, making it happen. We landed on a score of 85. We are definitely not happy with this. We think we can do much better. So quite quickly, we started moving ahead to improve this, to ramp up to the recertification. And with that, we also sometimes move a bit too fast. So some examples are, we introduced gender neutral toilets, which we thought was a great idea, which would align very well with our ambition, our mission, and our culture. We actually got quite some pushback on that, with the feeling of it's a sort of progressive agenda that gets put down your throat So not everybody was totally comfortable with these kind of ideas. A little bit similar with the idea of serving only vegan options at lunch, and like we are a fully vegan company. Pushing these kind of agendas can also be quite forceful, and so we should definitely take some time to get people on board with these kind of plans, making sure that it feels like a bottom-up movement and not a top-down thing that is sort of enforced by the woke police. So from this, we've learned, and this is also something that Charlotte has done wonderfully. We have created a few B Corp sessions where we really talk about what we want to do, where we get ideas from the organization. A lot of these ideas are kind of far out, like too much work or really hard to measure. But at least it's great to see what lives within the community of our own company, and doing it a bit more bottom up like that. So ordering, like using the 5 impact areas as a sort of structure for these conversations. We did 5 workshops talking about these 5 impact areas to get ideas from everybody. People really liked that, and it really helped to gain a better understanding, a more broad understanding within the whole company about what it means to be a B Corp, what are the sort of ideas that actually, you know, add to our score, and what are things that don't really matter, or are maybe looking at it a bit too narrowly. Like a lot of people initially were thinking it's only about sustainability. So examples like that, talking about that really make a big difference in getting the whole organization on board. We also really noticed that B Corp really helps us pulling in people, especially now. When I see that the amount of the ease at which we get new talent, and the amount of people that apply for jobs with us, compared to what I hear from other comparable agencies, it's really amazing, and it's really something that resonates. Like people at Green Jobs, for instance, are doing a wonderful job of gathering that, pulling in that community of people that are looking for impact and looking for companies that are like-minded. So B Corp really has become a sort of mark of approval, or a way at which employees can see that the company is actually walking the talk and doing what they promise internally. So massive impact for us. And lastly, we think putting on these sort of B Corp glasses into everything that we do really is massively inspiring. So since a few years, we stopped doing these sort of almost mandatory Christmas gifts to our clients, and basically every year we send our clients a letter saying that again this year they haven't got a Christmas gift from us, because we pull all those resources and all that money together, and we do one thing for an underserved community in the city. So this year, for instance, it was we organized a gift of a little plant for people that were homeless or had like temporary housing, to basically show like we really care, and we wish you a Merry Christmas. And that thought has resonated massively within our client community, and they think it's awesome. So conclusion, yes, we are very happy to become to be a B Corp, and we are actually increasingly happy. We really see it getting a lot of traction over the year. It's a massive change since 2020, where really nobody knows it. So I think it's a good time to get on board. And we are definitely eager to show that we improved quite a lot since our initial certification in 2020. So if you have any questions afterwards, this is my email address.
Thanks, Rolf. Shall I take over, Scotty? All right. Rolf, I loved your presentation. And I'm super inspired by the design as well. So I know it's done by an inspiring design agency. And I think one of the things that really resonates with what you said, Rolf, is that being a B Corp is something that you start to think about in terms of everything you do. And that's the power of being a B Corp, that you not only have a community of supporters, but you can start to live and breathe as an organization with that in mind, with being a social impact organization from the inside and on the outside. Before I jump into my presentation with some slides, not as well designed as Rolf's, I'm curious to learn just a little bit more about you guys so that I can best tailor the information that we use to work with clients to you guys. So I'm curious, like if those of you who have your camera off, if you could turn it on, we're going to just do a quick exercise. Just a couple questions. So, or you can put it in the chat. So on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being, I don't know anything about B Corp, I just heard about it. And 5 being, we're either working already on our certification and we're in the process, or we're almost on board. Where are you at? Could you just put up your number of fingers or in the chat, type that number in the chat? Okay, got some 4s, some 3s. Rolf has got his 5. Okay, that's helpful to see. And one other quick question. So of the organizations that you're leading or working for, again, on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being you have like over 1,000 employees, and 1 being you're a 1 to 2 to 10 person company. Could you also put up your hand on that so I have a sense of the size of the organizations? Okay, that's helpful to see. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen, introduce myself, all of those fun stuff. So before I dive in, my name is Meg Mateer. I'm originally from Philadelphia in the States, actually about 10 minutes away from where B Lab was founded, in a small town. So I wasn't aware of it at the time, but that magic was being cooked up right around the corner from me. I live and am based in Amsterdam. I'm an organizational psychologist and impact consultant at Better Future. And what we do is we help companies, either those who are B Corp certified or in the process of being B Corp certified, we help them embed those values into their day-to-day operations and strategy. So that's going to be the focus of my discussion, also sharing lessons learned and ways that you can use the B Corp certification to actually live and breathe being a social impact organization 365 days a year. So if we zoom out a little bit, this chart, if you look at this chart, you have basically a couple of different scales at which companies start to think about doing good, right? On the lower end of the scale, as you guys can see, I'm starting to really like scales here. The lower end of the scale, you can see that companies are doing good from a compliance perspective, right? From risk management or reputation management, et cetera. Then as you move along, companies might be thinking about philanthropy or CSR. And then at the higher end, you have what's called RSCs, or responsible social companies, and system transformers. So B Corp is on that higher end. It's companies that are saying, listen, we don't want to just be a company that operates in our business as usual and then has some sort of side gig or side projects that say we're doing for good. We want to live and breathe this both internally and externally. So if you can see in the RSC, it says that B Corps are falling into that responsible social company category. And I'm very excited to also notice that as an American, yeah, B Corps are very popular and very well recognized, but indeed it's a huge movement, as Rolf said, growing also in Europe and very well recognized, not just by a certain size of company. We work with large multinational organizations and smaller organizations as well. So industry, geography, not very specific. So there's a broad movement, and we're still in that phase of I wouldn't say early adoption, but there's, you guys are the front runners that can help steward this movement forward and be on the leading edge to be able to be recognized and things like that. Yes, so if we think beyond the B Corp, what we're really talking about is integrating this idea of purpose and profit, right? And I think Rolf highlighted a couple of these key points, but I think more often than not, what we're hearing from our clients, when our clients first come to us, they say, listen, we understand that if we don't do this, that we're not going to be able to attract the best talent. We're not going to necessarily capture the target audience that we want. And ultimately, we feel like we're living in a world that's increasingly committed to these social causes. So it starts to feel like a much more natural conversation to have. And we're seeing this also happening in boardrooms, in the C-suite, across all different kinds of companies. So pursuing impact goals is no longer sort of just like a nice to have, but it's very much a need to have these days. And that includes having things like the sustainable value chain, supply chain, if that's something that you're producing products, but also things like internal company culture and governance and things like that. So that's sort of the way that B Corp can also, we'll show you how B Corp can actually help you steward that change in your organization. So the way that we look at B Corp certifications is that this is a commitment of your company to say that we are going to live and breathe social impact. And it's a really powerful tool. We've seen to get everybody on board. It's a globally recognized certification. There's a standard to it, so you can sense where the company's at. Perhaps in the future, it also becomes something that more people are recognizing what score certain companies have. So the standardization is really helpful. The other thing is, what we've noticed working with our clients is one of the biggest challenges is getting all of your internal and external stakeholders on board to drive a social impact initiative in your organization. So what B Corp certification does, it creates that connection and that alignment so that everybody's on the same page and you can start to move forward. We noticed that we're working, for example, with a large multinational family-owned company right now, and they have about 8 different entities that are in all different industries in the social impact space. And as you can imagine, there's lots of different stakeholders that feel and question what they need to do in order to be a force for good. And so what the B Corp certification does is it outlines those core principles on a very holistic level to help get your stakeholders on board and move forward in a really practical way. So for example, if you've got someone who's focusing on environmental sustainability, and you've got someone who's focusing on gender equity and inclusion, and you've got someone who's focusing on employee well-being and connection, all of those projects ultimately are interconnected and fall under one umbrella. And the B Corp certification is a way for you to be able to integrate all of those projects and work holistically rather than in silos. The other really cool thing about B Corp certification in terms of helping your organization turn your social ambitions into day-to-day operations is that it aligns the impact initiative or the impact drive with the actual business operation. So those two, again, like I had mentioned earlier, they're not seen as separate, but actually integral. And companies are, through the process of becoming B Corp certified, are able to look at all different areas of their organization, their product, their customers, their employees, their culture. And it goes beyond, I know Rolf mentioned a few examples that were like gender neutral bathrooms or types of lunches, but it goes far, far beyond those more daily examples, and really permeates the way that people work together, the way that an organization is governed, things like that. So that's what we notice also with social impact initiatives, is that they start on this level of how can we make it tangible and concrete. So sometimes the idea of having things that are really obvious, like gender neutral bathrooms, or what meals they have or what benefits particular companies have, that can be like a nice kick-starting initiative, but ultimately this journey and this transformation goes much further into the DNA, as Scotty mentioned, of your organization. So those are, I think, the two from like a strategic level, those are the two really big things to keep in mind. And just to give, I think Scotty had mentioned this earlier, but this goes to show you a little bit of what the score might look like. And on the side, you have all of the different elements that contributed to that score. I won't spend too much more time on this slide because I think, Scotty, you covered most of that. And yeah, so this is whenever we have a client that comes to us and says, hey, we want to either become B Corp certified, or we are a B Corp, and we want to really make sure that it's embedded in our operations and in how we work and think, we make these kind of organizational transformations on 3 different levels. We look first at systemic elements of the organization. And these are things like, what are the motivation structures that you have in your organization? Do you have like quarterly only financial targets, or do you have other elements that create incentives for your employees? We also look at things like, who has the power, who has a seat at the table? These are kind of like the external drivers that will incentivize or de-incentivize behaviors and shifts in the organization. We simultaneously look at the organization on a relational level. What we notice is that the most successful organizations in these kind of projects are doing this through and with the power of their people. And just as Rolf had mentioned in his example, their initiative to become a B Corp became even stronger, it sounds like, when they started engaging the ideas and the creativity of the people in their organization. So I would say, if I have any bottom line advice for you guys as you begin this journey or you're on this journey, start very early with engaging the people that are in your organization, so that they feel not only like they're part of the project, but they actually probably have a lot of really good ideas and insights to help you drive that change. And then thirdly, and again, we do this simultaneously, we work on an individual leadership basis. And what we mean by this is, the quality of a systemic change is really dependent on the internal nature of the change maker. So we work on the leadership skills and awareness and self-development of people, change makers within the organization, but also at the leadership level. And we notice that without this component, there's what you lack is that internal mental shift that allows us to drop old stories and old narratives of how we need to work and how we need to be successful in business. Unfortunately, those narratives are things that we as human beings, we've just absorbed in the world. It's nothing, it's not good or bad, it's just is. So a lot of what we do at the same time as working systemically and relationally is helping people drop those old stories and start to learn new ways of thinking about themselves, relating to their colleagues, being leaders across the organization, both at the top level, but also throughout the organization. So we do a lot of coaching and a lot of peer coaching work. And that seems to tend to unlock that big shift. So if you feel like there's something stuck or somebody a bit stuck, that's where sometimes we tend to look at that individual leadership level and say, who do we need to talk to? Who do we need to have a conversation with to get moving forward? And then so the way that we approach this is from 5 elements. So we work both with getting management aligned and getting them to own. I think all of you in this room probably know that leadership buy-in and tone at the top is super important. And at the same time, the level 2, we work cross-functionally so that projects aren't in silos, and we develop what we call change leaders or a change team that then can ignite the initiatives that are committed to from the top. And then we also look at the executioner. So who's on the ground within the organization? Who are the people that are customer facing or doing the on the grounds work, and how can we make them feel empowered also to make the shift? So we work on those 3 levels of the organization, and then we take a look at also, certainly in collaboration, hopefully with Scotty as well, doing some monitoring and evaluating. So how have these initiatives changed the organization, et cetera. And then we also do a big piece around storytelling for impact, maybe that we'll collaborate with Rolf on. The importance of storytelling and telling a human story, and I think especially for organizations that are impact driven, continuing to make things human is something that absolutely people who are focused on social impact are really, really also focused on. Just to recap, we have the B Corp assessment, which I think, again, Scotty really touched on the high level aspects of that. And what we say is that the B Corp assessment is really the initial gateway to starting to ask some of these bigger strategic questions. So I'm curious, maybe at a later stage, to hear from Rolf what aha moments or what things confronted you when you started doing the B Corp assessment, because it sort of is like this audit that it's like, oh, whoa, I didn't realize that we were doing that, or these surprises, but it's this amazing opportunity when you see where you fall on that scale to then start to ask those deeper questions and make a shift organizationally. So it sometimes could be a little bit confronting, but it's a welcome invitation for transformation. So thank you guys, and happy to answer any questions at the end.
Thank you so much, Meg. I will switch directly to my slides as well, since you guys now probably want to know a little bit more, like how can you actually become a B Corp, and so what are the steps on that? We've moved to Impact. We try to help companies with their first steps on becoming a sustainable company in a data-driven, scalable and user-friendly way, so that you really can see, hey, that we connected basically and structure and measure it for you, but you can do it in your company, the change process yourself, and that you can work towards it basically. And then on a later stage, when you're also like growing a little bit into that, maybe work with a better future together and on spreading everything with Grill on that sense. What we do and what we help companies further with is not only the B Corp track and making that more insightful and having a better overview on that, but also on the CSRD track, that's regulation, for big corporate companies, but also for medium-sized companies coming up, but also creating holistic KPIs for companies. So how can you measure actually social aspects of your company? What are the measurements in there, and what are on a planet and profit level the KPIs, and how are they connected with each other? So, and what should you show in your year report or in general from your company? What should be shown? But since we want to dive a little bit deeper in the B Corp part, these are the 4 steps we help companies with on going through the process, because it's quite a struggle to understand the points within the B Impact assessment and interpreting the questions pretty much, because you may don't know a couple of the terms. I see Meg smiling, it's like, oh yeah, and nodding. That's definitely always a challenge in that sense. So we help basically with these steps. So it's 4 elements. We do the project preparation, the team kickoff and the impact areas, the support and answering this BIA questions, and the B Corp roadmap and prioritization workshop. Because in the beginning, we basically prepped this project a little bit to see with a survey in the front, in the beginning, hey, how is your company set up? Like, what is the structure of your organization? Because sometimes just a part of your organization, when you have different groups or you're a part of a bigger holding, can be only B Corp, and not everything can be B Corp. So it's important to check that first, so that before diving into the questions, you answer them from a good perspective, basically. And we talk with you in the beginning about what are challenges within your company. So that, for example, like Rolf and Meg said, hey, let's incorporate all of the people from your company right away. That is why we do in the second step 2 kickoffs, actually. It's one, the company kickoff, so that everyone actually knows like what is actually B Corp and what is actually coming, so that you can align better with them when you're actually on the point to actually create change, or wanting to have unified toilets, unisex toilets, or parts that they understand, like where are you coming from? Where are these like all actions are from? Then create impact areas and do a team kickoff. So we say to our clients, hey, you can best on each of the impact areas, on the workers, community, and all these 5 points, you can have like one responsible person for it, so that they just have to fill in 30 questions, so that not one person is like trying to fill in all the questions, but that it's divided, because there are 200 questions, and if you divide them by 5, it's much easier to tackle. And also the questions are much more divided also by areas in your companies, on like the financial level, for example. You always have to go to this person anyhow, so it's better to have like these 5 people in there, so that we tell them a little bit more in depth what they can expect, and how they should actually answer the BIA question. So that in the next phase, in supporting the answers, they can come back when they filled in the first time the BIA, or try to understand it with all their questions, and we can answer them and can go through it. And we also stimulate already them to think about actions, because then we can talk about also actions we already have seen from clients before, and can say like, hey, this is actually like, this is sometimes how it comes out. We also are aligned with a big B Corp agency in the UK, and we exchange knowledge on like what are the best actions for B Corps on moving forward. So that we can answer the best possible way for all our clients. And the 4th element is the B Corp roadmap and prioritization workshop. Since we are a data-driven company, we understood like within these questions and the points you get for the questions that it's pretty confusing and not really clear for everyone going through this BIA, where actually you can score points and where not. So we developed a tool based on the BIA so that you can have a better insight in all the points you are getting in these 5 areas and which are actually missing for you to actually become or get these 80 points. So that, yes, it's the goal, especially to become a sustainable company. But if you're missing points or if you're not able to do like one action which gives you 9 points, it's not a ramp. Like you can do all the other points basically, and then you still become an amazing company. So the nice talking for me about that, but like I will show you now how this tool looks like. Let's see if my screen switches. No, it doesn't, so I will stop it for a second and we'll realign it. There we go. So here is the tool we built, and Makers Unite. We helped with getting a greater score towards the 200, but they have 103. They're an amazing circular merchandise company. And here you see basically the questions you most of the times have when you answer the points basically within the BIA. This tool is not directly connected to the BIA of B Corp. This is a separate tool which we built and is based basically on the algorithm B Corp is using so that we can clarify basically the points better. So what we do, let's look at where do we miss points as a company. You click on there. And you get an overview basically on these 5 areas: environment, community, workers, customers, and governments, and how much points are you actually missing or maximum could get in there. And you see on customers and governments, this company doesn't miss so many points. So probably they should focus more on the environment and community and workers front. So they see here that they have like much more to do in that sense. So you can scroll down here and see points to score per question. So you see really per question which you're still missing, because in the BIA you don't have an overview of the missing questions, you just have an overview of all the questions. And here you have them all together, and basically already a small action list for yourself. So you can go through it basically and can say, hey, am I actually able to get these 9.6 points? If that's not possible, then have a look if these 2-point questions actually are able for you to be reached. Furthermore, we also created this tool like this that you can scroll down and see really like what kind of question is it, what answer did you give, how much points did you got from how many points, and the possible answers, so that you actually can really see, oh, these answer possibilities probably should be your goal you should work towards, but is it possible or not? And in this way, we structure the last prioritization workshop we help you with to really create an action list for your company on a short, mid, and long-term planning on how much points can you reach within like 3 months, how much points can you reach within 6 months, how much points can you reach within 12 months, for example, because then you can be a little bit clever about when you submit and how much work are you going to put in when you submit it within your 80 points, so that you can use a little bit the waiting row in your favor, so that you have a little bit more time to go for the extra parts of becoming a sustainable company. As you have seen, there are like a lot of more extra elements also in this tool. For example, low-hanging fruits question. So you have, Zoom is blocking a little bit my view on this one. So you have low-hanging fruit questions where you can actually see what actually questions are the easiest to answer for companies, and we have learned from, but also what is evidence you need for the assessment in the in the end. So all these elements are basically within the tool we are offering basically for our clients, and how we also help our clients to make it easier to become a B Corp. These are a lot of information, and we are now really interested. It's only 5 minutes left. I'm so sorry, guys, but we are curious about your questions of what we said, and what you guys want more information about. You can also reach me on skadi@movetoimpact.com, and in the end I will also tell you more about some drinks where we all will be available. Also Greux and Better Future will be there in May, but let's first dive a little bit into 1 or 2 questions you guys have. As the BIA is personalized by the type of business, some questions can change as you answer the BIA. Yeah, definitely. That's the point.
I see the question of Peggy.
Yeah.
Were there many surprises in the audit after the BIA? We noticed that we had a much higher score going into the certification process, and at some point it's all about proving, right? So they basically, with every question they try to they push you to prove your answer. So at some point we also got a bit overwhelmed by all the things that we needed to prove. So we also let some things slide that we thought like, yeah, this is actually something we really do, but we cannot prove it as such. So I always say, like, going into the assessment, you need to have, I would say, at least 90 points, because you're definitely going to lose 10 in the accreditation phase. So if you quickly do a BI and you land at 82 points, you're going to have a tough time in the certification. It's not impossible, but it's definitely going to be hard. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, and I see a question, hey, do you have specific help for agencies? Specifically, not really, but the thing is, with this tool we, for example, offer, it's easier to focus on specific areas where we see that there is a bigger chance actually for your company to score more points. That's the inside part in that sense, what we try to support even more, because yeah, sometimes it's hard to get an overview when you score not the best basically on one level, but on the other level you're easier to score in that sense. Yeah, that's a little bit the tricky part. That's why we wanted to create more insight in that. Yeah,
I would say as a service company, it's harder to measure your impact than if you have a supply chain and you can show how you make impact within your supply chain. I'm not saying that these companies have it easier, but it's at least easier to prove than if you are a service company that also makes their impact sometimes indirect through your company, through your clients. So yeah, it's definitely hard for agencies.
Yeah. And you say, Jonna Weston asked, like, do you need to be established business, or can you base a business on it? You definitely can base a business on it. The thing is, you are able to become, or like start to submit being a B Corp when you're 1 year old. For example, we are in this like trajectory now between like this 9 to 12 months of waiting row, because like we're 1.5 years old and we're like completely focused on, we have like, we admitted everything with 150 points in the submission, basically, because we built our company. Like, we obviously advise companies on that, and therefore build everything in that sense that we have like supplier checks, we have also policy templates for clients and also people we are working with, that they can directly score points and make it easier for them directly build their businesses on it, than to wait, because if you're a bigger company, it becomes more and more complex, basically, because you have so much elements and documents already in place which you have to change, then actually put it together right, and then move from there. But it's the challenge is more like to calculate like how much clients will you have and how will you anticipate your clients. That is the challenging part, basically, which is harder to answer the BIA on, but it's possible to adjust that, basically. Yeah, hope that helps.
I also see a lot of this B Corp pending, but I don't think it's like an official thing, right? Like it's the logo B Corp with a pending sign underneath. I think it's bullshit. It's not an official status.
It is actually an official status,
okay.
but it's basically that you have, there is like one paragraph you have to put into the base of your company, like into the contracts basically of your company, which have to go and sign basically by law that you're a company doing good. But that's the only thing you have to do. For the rest, you can do whatever you want, basically. But this is the only thing which is in there, and you have to pay B Corp basically to have that. These are the only two things you have to do to have this B Corp pending, basically, in that sense. So therefore we chose not to have it, because we thought like, hey, we want to like go for the full deal and not for the pending part. Yeah. Time-wise, we are 5 o'clock. I'm completely happy for you guys' questions, and we are going, I think, for like 2-3 minutes further to like see what's going on. Please put all your questions in the chat, because we can come back to them anyhow. I put now a link in the chat. That's Eventbrite for the 20th of May. That's an Impact Bureau in Amsterdam. So everyone who can and wants to be basically there and want to talk with Meg, with Rolf, with me further, our companies will be there. If it's not us three, there will be other people basically coming, and we will invite our network as well from companies that are B Corp, going to be B Corp, or wanting to be B Corp, or are already established sustainable businesses. We are really happy to have you there and answer more questions and have a drink with you, because we are able to be together again. It's either going to be in the common area here, or it's going to be on a roof terrace if it's really nice weather. So it's really nice to definitely come by and see everyone you only digitally have seen here today. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much, Meg and Rolf, for giving more insights on your experiences, and also on the longer trajectory of being a sustainable business and wanting to show more. Yeah, if you have any questions to Grr, send Rolf at Grr message if you have any questions for me. Skadi at Move to Impact. Meg, what is your email address?
I'm Meg at better-future.com. Yeah. Or you can just find me on LinkedIn. That's also a pretty easy way, but I'll post both in the chat.
Yeah.
Shall we do a few leftover questions?
Yes.
I'm all warmed up now.
Yes, now we can go for it.
I saw Frank's question about how do you know if you're not biased in getting those answers. Yeah. I think yes, I think it's probably possible to cheat a bit in the process, or to, I don't know, have a sort of blind spot of your own bias. I would say your motivation should be very internally. Like, of course. Yeah, you can get the B Corp certification. You can also just put the logo on the website and pretend to be a B Corp. I think for me personally, it is really about being inspired, being sort of putting yourself against those other companies, seeing how you perform, seeing how you can do better, giving a sort of deeper understanding of this, the mission or the drive that you have to become the best company yourself. So, yeah, I don't know, it doesn't fully answer your question. Like, I guess having the having an external auditor or an external person helping you, like Skadi, like Meg, could definitely help you to reflect on your biases in your company.
Yeah. And I see the question, like, what should they expect to hear at the moment? They are a little bit better now, VLab, with the communication, since we got more emails, definitely. And they directly now send you automated emails on like what you can expect and when they are coming back to you. However, when you really submit it and they tell you basically, hey, you are in there and we're looking at it, then definitely it takes like a month till you get the next email, and then 3 months to get the next email after that. So it's like it takes quite some time. And if you're not sure where you are, you can always log in at the B Corp site in your BIA to see what status it is and where they are at. So then it's probably not changing for quite some time, but then you definitely know whether you missed something or like something is going on there. You definitely can see more information on that as well. Yeah.
One other thing I just wanted to mention to you guys, which is an advantage of being a B Corp, is just getting access to the community of B Corps, which can be an amazing resource. We facilitate, for example, usually once a year, unless the world is going to blow up with COVID. We usually host a B Corp CEO dinner once a year, and that usually has an attendance of between 75 and 100 CEOs of different B Corp organizations. So it's also an opportunity to start to plug into the community and get ideas and also build momentum. We're starting to see multi-stakeholder kind of initiatives that are companies in similar industries coming together to also push the strategic agenda forward. So it's a great community to tap into.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, it's we also see that a lot, like when you show that you're a sustainable company, that you're caring, that you're on this path of becoming a B Corp, like a lot of doors directly go open when you like approach companies. They're like, oh, you're doing this as well. Like even like some companies say like, oh yeah, for good, like this good companies, we do it even for a little bit less, or like they're like, oh yes, we could partner on this or that. Like for example, Meg and Rolf, I also like got to know, especially because of these kind of interactions, because it's more a community of trying to do it together, because we are all not enough, you know, in this impact area and this sustainability journey we are all on, and none of us knows it all. We don't have the holy grail for anything, basically, but we only can approach that all together. That's why we also want to have more of you in there. I know, for example, Rolf is like promoting it also on their website a lot, of like, hey, to their clients, please become a B Corp to be more aware and create more positive impact for everyone. Yeah. I think that was it also a little bit with the questions in the chat. We are really happy to have you on the 20th of May. Come by, ask us more questions, connect with us in person. We're looking forward to that. Thank you so much again to Meg and to Rolf. Have a lovely afternoon, everyone, and evening, and hopefully talk to you soon and get in contact with us if you have any questions or want to have support in your B Corp journey. Bye-bye, guys.